I recorded and edited this whole video yesterday, Friday, when my videos are supposed to go up. And right as I was making final touches on the edit, my editing software booted me out. When I logged back in, everything was gone. Everything was gone. On top of that, for other reasons, I was already having a kind of shitty day. So I decided we're washing our hands of it. I deleted all of the footage. I said, I think I can re-record this better anyway. Round 2. Today is a very casual QA, get to know me. I get questions from my followers, especially over on Instagram and TikTok all the time. And there are some questions that are pretty reoccurring over the years. So I have compiled a list of 10 frequently asked questions. And I thought we could go over them to help you and I become closer besties. Sound good? Let's go. Welcome back to Romance and Rosé, where we almost exclusively read romance and hardly ever drink rosé. First, if you're new here, a small introduction. A lot of people see my handle on my other socials and assume that my name is Rose. It's not. My name is Cassandra. I'm 30. I have 2 kids and an amazing husband who I feature every so often on my page. He's the best. Also a reader, aspiring author. As of now, I am not a full-time content creator, but sometimes it feels like it. I'll tell you what, I spend a lot of time with you guys. I am a part-time professional hairstylist, and I also homeschool those 2 kiddos at home. So I always joke with my clients that I'm basically a full-time stay-at-home mom that just does hair sometimes and reads a shit ton of books. And I have been on the bookish side of social media since January of 2021. Crazy. So where did the handle Romance and Rosé come from? For some of you, that may seem totally self-explanatory. Oh, she likes to read romance books and she must really like rosé. I've actually told this story a handful of times on other platforms, but I figure if we're doing one big Q&A, I'll just toss the quick version in here. I actually don't like rosé that much. If you know me really well and we're out and about, I will almost always order a French 75 or a plain glass of Prosecco or a glass of Cabernet. Those are my adult beverages of choice. But Romance and Rosé came from way back in the day. Me and all my sisters, I have 2 and then a sister-in-law. We started a very casual book club where the first Friday of every month, which we still do to this day, we get together. We don't pick a book that we all read. Everyone just kind of brings whatever we're reading and we gossip and do sleepovers and drink wine. And my sister, who always hosted it, liked everyone to bring a bottle of rosé. And our group chat was called Reading and Rosé. It's still called that to this day. But when I started my socials, I thought it would be fun to have a page that was like an ode to that. That's how it started. Reading and Rosé was taken. And I thought, well, what's the closest thing? I only ever read romance books. Romance and Rosé. And people just find that fact so funny. Romance and Rosé doesn't even like rosé. Next question. What is my most controversial bookish take? This one's actually super easy. I love a spoiler. I do, and I'm not quite to the point where I'm reading the last page first. I really like trope lists because the more information I know about a story, the more likely I am to pick it up. In the very beginning of my bookish years, that's actually kind of how I made a name for myself. I did really long form spoiler-filled reviews of all of the books that I read because I just felt like there weren't enough people out there making content that I wanted to see, which was you telling me all about this book. And I feel like I'm really good at that, relaying all the information about something I just experienced to you. So yeah, I will always love a spoiler. I'm not an asshole, so I'm not gonna be out here spoiling things for people who don't want it to be spoiled. I've always tried to be good at letting people know when I'm about to relay a spoiler for something. That's the kind of content that I like to see. Those are the kind of details that really hook and get me excited to pick up a story. I think that in this space, that's a bit controversial. Okay, my top 3 best and worst tropes. This one is also actually super easy, and for you OGs, you've heard me reiterate these things over and over again in my content. The top 3 for me is going to be age gap, childhood friends to lovers, love triangle. That might be controversial too. People hate love triangles. I love them. And my 3 least favorite would probably have to be why choose, fake dating, bully. All you bully girlies out there, you're made of something stronger than I, because that's some motherfucking bullshit that I would never put up with. And anytime I see a female character end up falling for someone who treated them like shit on the bottom of their shoe, I lose respect for them. And I never want to read about an FMC that I don't respect. That's crazy. I'm okay if she's not perfect, but if you fall for a guy who didn't appreciate you and you fell for him even after all the stuff that he did and said about you, yeah, I don't know. I think it's just because it's too personal. Like, you're mean to me one time, I could never have feelings for you. It's just like, it's gone. I don't care how hot you are. All of a sudden, oh, I'm cured. No attraction whatsoever. Also, that being said about white shoes, I do have some white shoes that I've read over the years that were really good. Overall, it is not a trope that I gravitate towards. So if a story does happen to be white shoes or polyamorous, there have to be other things about the story that I find interesting enough to pick it up. The trope itself is actually kind of a deterrent, but like I said, I've read some of all of those tropes over the years that were top tier. How do you stay so positive and confident in a place like social media? I get different versions of this question and comment almost every day. I sort of like mushed all the different versions of this question together because staying positive, that's actually pretty easy. I am in general a very happy, positive, and bubbly person. I think it probably comes from the fact that I'm a middle child and a people pleaser. So I grew up being really good at emotionally regulating myself and even sometimes the people around me. But I am just naturally, genuinely a very happy person. That just reflects in my content, however that flows off of me organically. Now, the confidence part of it, I'll be honest, sometimes when you guys ask me this, I'm not sure if it's backhanded or genuine. Me and my friends have talked about this. I think there's actually a split in who means it genuinely when they say it and who means it backhanded. Because I do get people saying, oh my gosh, I wish I had your confidence, with like hearts and smiley faces. The context clues and the way it's delivered seems more complimentary than someone just saying,
wow, I wish I had your confidence.
And I will tell you, usually younger people will always tell me, oh no, that's backhanded. That's an insult. Veiled in a compliment. And then usually people who are a little bit older than me are like, oh no, that's so great. That's like a great compliment. So either way, I'm gonna take it as a compliment always, no matter how you mean it. But in general, yes, I am a confident person. And when people ask how I stay so confident in a space like this, or ask for advice on how to be more confident, this is kind of over the years where I have pinpointed the origin of my confidence. And some of you may not like what I have to say about it. I'm sorry. This is my experience. I grew up in a very loving household with parents who were very loving, encouraging, and present. Me and all my siblings were homeschooled, so we were really close with my mom. She always did her best to make sure that I always had clothes that fit me and made me feel really good. And my dad was so amazing, is still so amazing. Mom and Papa Rosè are still married. They're still very much in love, active, involved grandparents, which I'm so blessed by. But because of all those wonderful things, and they did such a good job of protecting me from negative outside sources growing up, that I just never had anyone telling me that I wasn't good enough. And it breaks my heart for all the young women and girls out there who are not growing up with that protection and security. And I just think growing up like that with the people who have the most influence in your life, teaching you from a young age that your value doesn't come from outward validation, raised me to just be a very healthy, grounded individual. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that I'm perfect and that I have never had insecurities and that I'm full of myself. No, I think I grew up with that healthy balance of being confident in how I wanted to present myself physically, but also being a decent person. And they helped me develop my personality into a way that now I feel confident in how both of those work together and how I'm able to present myself in the most authentic way possible to the people in my life. This is actually a perfect segue into another question that I had a little bit farther down the list. But because I grew up that way, that safety and security and confidence made it really easy for me to spot boys who were full of shit. I just never gave anyone the time of day who didn't make me feel good about myself. So this next question, how did you meet Mr. Rosè? How we met and the story of how we got together are very different things, because we met in 6th grade because we both came from homeschool families and we were signed up for the same co-op. So I was 12, he was 13, maybe almost 14 at the time. And that's like the most bare bones version of that story. And if you guys want a fuller Mr. and Mrs. Rosè origin story, I would be happy to do a more long form story time version of that. Let me know in the comments if you're interested. It's juicy, it's dramatic, and I love telling people about it. But that sort of wraps up the previous question, that to this day I'm also still so confident because that man spends every day of his life gassing me up. I could barely get dressed this morning. I could barely do my makeup because he just has his hands all over me. He's so complimentary. He's just like, we are equally so obsessed with each other and like codependent in a way that makes me feel very secure, not only in our relationship, but in myself. Because you know that saying, you can tell how much someone loves themselves by the partner that they choose. Look at that man. Look at that man. I fucking love myself because I picked that. Someone who's gonna treat me the way I know I deserve to be treated. And the reason I know how I'm supposed to be treated was because my parents giving me that example every day. And I'm so grateful for that. And I hope that my kids grow up with those same values and standards that they can perpetuate into their own lives. That's my dream. That they end up with people who they're obsessed with, who are also obsessed with them, and they just live like happy lives together forever. That was a super long-winded answer, but I feel like that was a question that I knew I wanted to spend the most time on. So we'll try to speed it up from here on, okay? Get with it. Next question. How do you get book PR? I get this question all the time. Almost every time I post an unboxing video or have one of these ask me anything questions in my Instagram stories. And the answer is kind of simple, kind of not, because I started getting PR at a point in my bookish journey where authors were actually reaching out to me, asking me if I would be interested in receiving these specifically for unboxing videos. And this seems sort of common sense to me, but I do feel like there's some people who maybe don't fully understand that PR boxes are not just like throwaway gifts that authors send out without intention. PR stands for public relations. It's part of marketing. So authors and the PR companies that they work with want to be strategic with who is receiving these so that they can get the most amount of reach to help boost book sales ultimately. But social media is a big place, and just because someone hasn't come across your page or reached out to you doesn't mean that they wouldn't be very interested in getting you on a PR list. So here are a couple ways that you can go about letting these companies know that you are available and interested in receiving these. Good Girls PR, Valentine PR, Source Books Casablanca. There are a ton of romance book specific PR companies. And I'm sure if you Google romance book PR companies, you'll find a list of that somewhere. But a lot of these brands on their website and in the bios of their social media have sign up forms. And what you can do is you can go to them and you can fill them out, where you'll give them all the information about your socials, the types of authors that you like to read, and that's sort of your application, if you will. I think it helps if you're already making content showing your face and are really active and present on social media. Some PR companies are okay if you don't show your face if they see you're making really high quality content, and they just want assurance that anything they send you and you post about is going to get some level of visibility. But also to make it easier for those PR companies who are scouting out pages, if they were to come across yours, make sure that you're easy to get a hold of. Do that by putting an email specifically to your bookish page in your bio. That is always helpful, and that is how people will reach out to you as a bookish business influencer. Next question, is there an author you haven't met yet that you would fangirl over? A lot of people know that I have a side gig working with the company Love on Demand, and we travel to book signings and I get to meet and interview authors all the time, and I love it. So I'm in a very privileged position where I have gotten to meet a lot of my romance book idols. But even before I got this host gig with Love on Demand, I was traveling to these book events as a personal hairstylist. So that was a sort of fun way to merge both of my passions, and I got to actually have some really personal, private, one-on-one time being a part of glam squads for a lot of my favorite authors in this space, which again is just like a completely incredible experience to be able to have. But to answer the question, at this point, I'm so comfortable in this space that it's less about fangirling and more like authors who I haven't met yet that I'm just really excited to finally meet in person. Like Amanda Richardson, she's one of my favorites. Gemma Ware, I absolutely adore her, but they both live in the UK, and anytime they've been to the US, we just haven't been able to cross paths, and I am obsessed with both of them, as well as a good friend of mine, Stephanie Amaral. She lives in Spain. She writes my favorite mafia romance series of all time. Lauren Pell Freeman, the author of the Wolf King trilogy. You know what? Maybe I would fangirl over her a little bit. Maybe I would. I love her so much. Also, Julie Ann. I haven't met her yet, but I love her books. So again, I have been put into a position where I can say I have met the authors of maybe 70% of the books on my shelf. And it's the absolute best. I love my job. I love getting to build these relationships with these people that I admire so much. But yeah, there's not just like one author who I would fangirl over. I think that's the best part of this space, is that even authors, we're all kind of fangirls of romance as a genre. And when you get together and you meet these people, you realize how alike we all are in this fandom, if you will. If I had to guess, how many books do I think I have read in my life? Now, I did not start my Goodreads account until 2021 when I started all of my booker social medias. But according to that, I have read a little over 800, and a goal of mine is to get my Goodreads over 1,000 by 2027, which feels super huge to me. Now, in my life is tricky because do you count like kids' books when you were little? I did not become an avid reader until adulthood. Literally until maybe 2017 when I got pregnant with my son. I read very rarely for pleasure because I was really dyslexic. I didn't like reading because it felt like it was constantly confronting me with my shortcomings and the things that I was bad at. It made me feel unintelligent and sort of pressed on that type of insecurity within myself. So I really only read mandatory stuff for educational purposes. So I don't know if I've almost read 1,000 now. Then I'd say probably in my lifetime at this point still probably maybe about 1,000 if you include the over 800 I've read presently on my Goodreads. I definitely read less than 200 books for pleasure before that. How do I like my coffee? I find this question much more intimate than what is your favorite color? How many siblings do you have? What do you do for work? If you know how someone takes their coffee, that means you're friends. That means you're close. My coffee always needs to be iced, sweet, and milky. And the specifics of that coffee order shift with the seasons. In spring, I like lavender and banana. In the fall, always pumpkin. In the wintertime, I love like a sugar cookie or a peppermint moment. And I will love you forever if you toss a cold foam on top of it. And the last question, what is the biggest thing that I have learned from being on social media as long as I have? And this one is also super easy, at least from my experience. I feel like you get out of it what you put into it, and that goes the same for like the energy that you put out onto social media, which is why I genuinely like to keep my content really like fun and upbeat and positive. Like sure, every once in a while I'll put a hot take or I'll talk about a book that maybe I didn't love. That's just me being real. In general, I feel like my experiences have been pretty positive because I am pretty positive and I'm receiving back the energy that I'm putting out into the world. And also at the end of the day, it's just never really that serious because I have a husband who adores me, children to raise, a life that I'm building. Do I love this? Absolutely. I wouldn't do it if I didn't, but my priorities in life are so beyond this that I think those are the things that I've learned to keep front and center what's really important. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't you feel closer? It's like we're best friends now. I will see you next week. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel. I love you. Mwah.